What is up, DXB family? The Fed just dropped a bombshell. Jerome Powell is now facing criminal investigation from the Department of Justice, and he's calling it exactly what it is, a direct attack on the Fed independence. Now, this is huge for crypto. This is super huge for your portfolio. And in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to try and break down exactly what it means for Bitcoin. We are already seeing some type of market reaction. And of course, this is why 26 could be different. He leaves in May, but what is the likely fallout? Let's dive in. So before we do that, let's go straight to what he said.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
Wow. So this is going to be incredibly interesting. And what we can see is, of course, Bitcoin went all the way to 92 plus, took liquidity there, and has now reversed all the way back to $90,000. If people believe the news is not impactful, then they are in a wishful thinking. Now, the only way I can see things moving forward, of course, is by getting through the month of January, where liquidity eases up. He has until May, so just over 4.5 months to serve this particular administration. But he's well within his rights to defend the Fed independence. Now, the magnitude of the problem is directly connected to investor confidence. Now, if you look at Department of Justice led by Pirro, a longtime Trump ally, what they've done is serve Powell a grand jury subpoenas, threatening criminal indictment. That was absolutely key, of course. And this probe, many is seen by political and has nothing to do with renovations, as he said in his speech right there, or his address. Now, key context: Fed just cut rates for the 3rd time in 2025, bringing rates down to 3.5 from 3.75%. Trump wanted 50 basis points. They gave him 25, and now Powell's term ends in May. Trump has already said that at this point, and a direct quote, "Anybody who disagrees with me will never be a Fed chair." Top candidates to praise him like Kevin Hassett, Kevin Warsh, Christopher Waller all expect to be more dovish. I expected to push for lower rates. Now, Capital Economics is predicting that the new Fed chair will be at loggerheads almost immediately because of inflation still being above 2%. However, I doubt if that's the case. So what does it mean for our portfolios? Now, when you look at the crypto by just by the recent moves, I mean, number one, the more rate cuts are going to come under a favorable administration. Okay, you can see here, despite what's going on, the market is relatively long, but these longs were at one point over 70, 65, 70%, and now they have come down quite significantly. In the short term, on the daily basis, we are seeing at least 1.9 million shorts, compared to the 1.4 billion longs. And over the next 24 hours or the 3 days, there is liquidity to the downside, of course, as much as the 92,000 and some change that we took. So going back to number one, more cuts will come in 2026 purely because of the fact that low rates mean cheaper money. Cheaper money flows into risk assets, and a friendly Fed is going to be very, very key for the crypto markets. And we can actually see in terms of the fund flows, it's overall negative for Bitcoin and for Ethereum over the 7 and 30 days. No need to speculate on the 5-10 minute. It doesn't really matter what happens there. Daily negative, weekly negative, and of course, monthly is also negative. So the dollar is weakening overall. The index dropped to 9% in 2025, while the erratic trade policies and concerns about central bank independence and falling interest rates have all compounded to that. When the dollar weakens, typically risk assets will take on, but what we need now is investor confidence. Under the current climate, there is absolutely no confidence at all. And while we've seen massive, massive spot volumes, I mean, look at this. This is the 7-day, 24-hour is negative for Bitcoin, of course. And in the last hour, the entire market is negative. But over the last 7 days, it has become very evident that the market is overall seeing more spot volume. And that's absolutely key. Number three, institutional demand is going to keep rising. We're just over $1 billion in institution inflows in January. Hence, in point, you are seeing the spot volume stabilize for the first time. So that's going to be key. That pushed Bitcoin from 87 to just under 95K. We're now back at 90K and we're dropping, but I'm watching for that American session later on. And smart money as well. Wintermead reports a 13 million in call options bought overnight for Bitcoin. By the and they're calling it $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of January, early February. So institutions are overall positioning. Now, CoinShares is forecasting Bitcoin between 120 and 170 by the end of the year. VanEck's bull case is $255,000. So, the center of gravity is going to shift slowly. And of course, according to analysts, we may find a sweet spot about $110,000 in the medium term. So Bitcoin was trading around, at the time of recording this video, around 91,700. It's now obviously dropped back to the $90,000 level. And we did touch all the way to 92 and above. And this means basically the bands have compressed to their tightest levels since July 2025. And if you remember what happened after the last squeeze, Bitcoin exploded to 115 to 126 in just 3 months. The key levels to watch will be holding this current 90K level. If we break below 85K is a real possibility. And right now we've moved down quite aggressively. It might have been a liquidity grab, but nevertheless, there is this uncertainty about what's going on with the Fed. So pressure to the downside, potentially we could see, 85. However, I do believe 100,000, if we break the resistance at 94, 95,000 to 96, we may break $100,000 or test $100,000 as a psychological magnet. Liquidity is certainly pointing to that direction, and we may be pulling towards that. Patterns we're seeing now mirrors April 2025. The setup is exactly the same. At this moment, a dovish Fed is what's missing from the picture. Now, the Powell event could really shock markets because, again, we have been pricing in a conflict. In fact, I've spoke about it in October, November, and December, round about the change of Powell. Trump may be impatient because of the midterms, and he may just want to try and put more pressure for him to resign. But Powell's not having it. He's cementing his legacy. By all means, Powell does look like a good man that knows what he's doing. And of course, Trump has been manipulating these markets, can't get his way, and they subpoena the guy. Do I agree with Trump? Do I agree with Powell? I think Powell is doing his job, and Trump, well, since he came in, crypto hasn't been the same. Let's be absolutely factual about it. He may send it in the end, but at the moment, he's in a fighting stage. So here's my read. Consolidate. Smart money is accumulating. Institutions are pretty much putting more money into the table. Will the decision today or yesterday to subpoena them impact investor confidence? 100%. No one wants to see a Fed versus the president, but it's been going on time and we've been managing. So with institutional flow strong and Fed likely to keep cutting rates if they have a new Fed chair who's dovish, 2026 just got slightly, in fact, incredibly more bullish. So first, reality check. We're not in alt season yet. Alt season index still at 16, which means Bitcoin dominance still strong, but there is an interest in select altcoins that are outperforming the market. 2025 was the year for privacy with Zcash, Monero, and BNB. In fact, I've just posted a buy alert for an interesting coin in the VIP group, so you might want to check that out. Several other things happening in our Discord, just in case you're not familiar with it. Here we have some craziest IPOs in history. We have SpaceX, OpenAI, ByteDance, Anthropic, Databricks, Stripe, Revolut, and Canva, all IPO in this month. And also Bitmine has been staking Ethereum. Tom Lee, they've staked over 100,000 ETH, which is incredibly bullish. And we do have some smart wallets. So we've got this OG Ethereum whale who has an average of $517 and has 26,000 ETH remaining at $80 million. He's been selling incredibly aggressively, right? So we can see Bitstamp deposits here, 26K value. These are the number of ETH that he's been shipping, right? But against that, others are staking. Of course, polymarkets, the conflict in Iran is getting attention. Supreme leader of Iran to be out by the 31st of January. Somebody just put a $28,000 bet on polymarkets, which is absolutely insane. Some other stuff that's going on in our VIP Discord. So of course, we've got the Coinbase listings and others. So make sure you go check it out. But let me know your thoughts. Is Powell going to resign under pressure? Will the markets open with incredible cynicism of what's going on? And of course, I'll be bringing you all the latest news that happens around this event. So far, Bitcoin on the 2-day, on the weekly, it's decent. On the daily, you could see that we have lost a bit of momentum, but the RSI is recoiling again. Okay, so yeah, smash a like as always, share the video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.